Welcome to the Tuesday, February 11th, 2020 meeting of the Long Meadow School Committee. This meeting is being recorded, aired live on LCTV, and live streamed on longmeadow.org. It is a legal requirement that anyone recording the meeting disclose that they are doing so at this time. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So our first item of business tonight is the School Committee Student Advisory Council. The students have developed an agenda for the evening, and I will hand it over to the students.
Should we start with the suggestion box?
Yep. So at our general planning meeting, we opened up the suggestion box for to look around and see what people are suggesting. While most were kind of nonsense and they weren't really suggestions, we did have a couple about ICE. That's like the study hall at our school, and they're just about collaboration and how they don't really feel there's a space for them to collaborate with each other. Well, in actuality, we do have spaces, the classrooms, so we just want to plan on being more upfront about that, so they do know that there is a space for them to talk with others and kind of do group projects.
And you have some amount of choice when you're heading to your ice blocks, is
Yes,
that correct?
yeah. There's a few rooms you can go to,
Yeah.
the library, there's and then the classrooms as well.
All right. Computer access is
Yep.
good.
The library has some computers you can sign out and use during the block.
All right. Good. All right.
So next up, I think we have the Lunar New Year concern issue. So I just wanted to start quickly by running down what the Lunar New Year is. So Lunar New Year is popularly known as the Chinese New Year, and I call it the Lunar New Year, not the Chinese New Year, because it's actually celebrated in countries other than China, such as Taiwan, Korea, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, Tibet, and Laos. And to kind of quickly explain what Chinese New Year is, Lunar New Year is, for Americans it would be a combination of Christmas and Thanksgiving. So families get together, make food, watch the Spring New Year's Festival Gala. And from what I heard from some students when we were figuring out what we're going to put in the next issue of the Jet Jotter was, hey, why don't we do a story, and why don't we have a day off for the Lunar New Year? It's so big culturally for us, and we either have to go to school and feel bad because we're missing out on family time when some family comes from these faraway places, or if it's all with family friends, or they miss the Spring New Year's Festival Gala, which is this kind of show, how we have the New Year's Eve ball drop, only there's a lot more sketches and video magicians and such, as far as I understand. And because it's aired at night there, and there's a 12-hour difference, it's right midday, so at 12 here, actually, at the same time, but the next day, I guess. And some students I know in the past years have actually skipped school that celebrate to see this ball drop, but they just feel it's unfair to some degree that there are days off for Jewish holidays, for Christian holidays, and don't exactly feel, even though they can skip the day for religious traditional grounds, they then have to make up work, whereas other students for their religious holidays or heritage-related holidays don't have to. And I quickly want to run through some data, what some other districts have done to combat this. So the New York City schools no longer have school on Lunar New Year, as far as I've read, and they have, I looked at their data, 16% students that identify as Asian in their district. And we have 10% in our district, from what I could find online, that identify as Asian. And identifying as Asian, that groups together a lot of different ethnicities and cultures, so that's not just the people that celebrate Lunar New Year, that's also people from India and just that general region. So it's it would be a little bit wrong to say that all of them celebrates, that 10% of our school celebrates Lunar New Year. But it's still, and same with the New York City schools, but it's still a significant portion. It's actually something I've heard come up before we did the whole jet charter thing. We actually decided we're not going to run a story about it just because it's going to be a month away from the Lunar New Year, which happened end of January. I think it was January 31st, Friday, January 31st, I think. And so the two solutions that I could find have some precedent is A, you just have no school, kind of what New York schools did. But I could see why that wouldn't be supported, and something that I've seen schools do in Maryland and in other districts as well for Muslim holidays is they will have a professional development day scheduled on those holidays. So one that we already have, maybe we just make reschedule for Lunar New Year every year because it changes what day it is. So students could stay, students that celebrate could stay home, students that don't celebrate will stay home, but we don't end up adding on days at the end of the year as a result because it's a professional development day that we might already have planned for. So I'd like to hear people's thoughts if this is anything that could be possible. Interest.
I guess I'll start. I mean, it's something I think the calendar committee going into next year could take a look at and consider as part of their negotiations around the calendar. I do think it'll be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you said earlier brings home like 10% Asian, but a large part of that Asian population is Indian in this town as well. So, or not a large, a significant portion of that 10%. And so, does it stop here? Does it go to Diwali? Did you talk about that? Does it go to other, like, what becomes the policy setting limit for when we start doing days off? Did you guys discuss that at all, or no? Okay, so those are the kind of considerations I think the calendar committee would have to take into consideration is the sensitivity to other cultures as well around what other significant holidays are, and then does it become practical against a calendar that is based in learning? Mm-hmm. We're stuck at 180 days. We can't go past the end of June, so any holiday that we add in complicates the calendar as well. I got to applaud you guys for bringing this forward. I think this is a great concern. I think it's something that definitely needs to be looked at and discussed more. But I think probably the calendar committee would probably be the best place to start those conversations.
Sure.
I don't
So,
know.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to mention that I've noticed that there's some schools that they may not have a day off, but they have a spot on their calendar where they list a lot of different observances. So maybe that could be something to be considered.
Mm-hmm.
Lunar New Year, in addition to some other things, maybe. But I don't know if
Sure,
calendar
yeah,
does.
so your timing is good, and I would echo what Chairman Ray said. Appreciate you guys bringing this to our attention. Your timing's good because we happen to have a meeting of the calendar committee tomorrow. So it's that is a committee made up of administrators and teachers, and the calendar is set for the 2021 school year. We are starting to look at the 21-22 school year. So I'll fold that into the conversation tomorrow. I think, we all would have some homework to do on this in terms of finding out what other districts are doing, and as Chairman Ray said, what are the limitations of this? How far could we possibly go, or what are the options? So we can look at that. Ultimately, the calendar committee brings a recommendation forward to the school committee, and the school committee sets the calendar based on that recommendation or some other considerations that they have. So we'll be sure to fold it into the conversation tomorrow and see where it goes.
I love your idea of the PD day. That was a smart idea to come up with. That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, I wish there was just more. I couldn't find at least easily publicly accessible data on. I wanted to find out like percentage of maybe people from India versus people from places that would celebrate Lunar New Year, but at least publicly I couldn't find it. I don't know if there's any other way I could find that data. because I would have loved to bring that
Yeah,
to
I mean, it's only broken down in the way that I'm aware of, broken down in the ways that you described, but
Mm.
we could do some digging on that as well.
Yeah.
But minimally, it's something that we need to be cognizant of and be aware of and, you know, recognize at least, and, you know.
Yeah, no, I think census data would definitely be able to give you a better handle on the makeup of the town in more granularity. I would just caution not getting hung up on the percentages and focus more on the cultural diversity that may exist, that, yes, this may make sense for a certain population of the school at large, but there are other holidays that are culturally significant as well that we don't have a day off for or a PD day for, that you have to be really careful about to say what makes one more significant than the other and be sensitive to everybody's concerns and needs in those. And I know, like, for the Indian culture, Diwali is like huge, like, you know, and you know, at work, we shut down our divisions and it's a big holiday for them. And I'm sure there's other things, like you said, for Muslim holidays and other ones that we would have to be very sensitive to. But I definitely think it's a great conversation to have. Anybody else?
So now I'll be talking about the sports update. So now that we're at the beginning of February, we're kind of at that point where sports are finishing their regular seasons and going into their playoffs or their equivalent in an individual sport. So I'll just go through what our winter sports are doing right now. So for boys swimming, they just got 4th at Western Mass, and States is coming up this weekend. For girls swimming, they just got 2nd at Western Mass, and then States is this weekend for them too. Girls basketball has playoffs next week. So far, they've had 12 wins and 4 losses, but they still have 4 more games before the playoffs. And then boys basketball also has 4 more games, but so far they have 10 wins and 6 losses, and they just qualified for playoffs this week, I think. And then boys track just got 2nd at Western Mass. Girls track just got 7th at Western Mass. Boys hockey has 5 wins, 2 losses, and 1 tie. Girls hockey has 4 wins, 2 losses, and 1 tie. And wrestling has 4 wins. So we're doing good.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to cover the clubs and activities. So first, I want to start with the Pops concert that happened last Thursday, February 6th at 7 o'clock. All the choir groups performed and jazz band. Jazz band performed Moon Dance by Van Morrison, I was told. The singers performed Eye of the Tiger, just as examples. At the Pops concert, there was also, I believe at the beginning, a Poetry Out Loud competition. Thomas participated in that. That's where students read poetry that they memorized in front of an audience, and participating were Gloria Zhang, Trina Morrow, Thomas Claus, Catherine Lee, and Sammy Chiquette. Sammy Chiquette, a freshman, won, and she'll be continuing to the next level, district level, I believe, is it called? Yeah. In Springfield. Then we have the Jet Jotter, which I believe everyone got a copy of last week. It's the second issue of the Jet Jotter, and it came out Thursday, January 30th, and I know that the date is wrong, very wrong. It's more or less had an overall positive reception. I would like to highlight the new writers, Kira Growal, a sophomore who wrote about Mrs. Ferrera's early retirement, and Jacob Wu, a freshman who wrote about video games and their effect on violence. Gloria Zhang and Charlie Townsend both collaborated on a story about local effects of the Chinese trade war, and I feel like that was well done too. That was just my personal opinion. We had a few issues. We had a few delays due to college applications and the long break, and just we all weren't making our deadlines. But we're glad we got it out. Another issue we had is we switched the printer. I don't know if people noticed, to the Harvard Crimson's printer, so the printer that prints Harvard's paper, Harvard University, that is, and this contributed to a few days and delays because how they deliver, despite technically being closer to us than our previous printer, and the printing quality just turned out to be really poor. I don't know if that was noticeable, but that wasn't on our part. That was just the Their printer was apparently really old, as we found out afterwards, and they said it struggled with the color printing because we used a lot of color. And we'll be switching back to our old printer for the next issue, which will be releasing February 28th. And in the February 28th issue, we're looking pretty good right now for this next issue. Most of the stories we met today with Tommy and our editor-in-chief, Esther. And it looks like we're on track to release for the February 28th. Most of the stories are written. In this, I have the layout right now sitting at home on my computer. It's almost half done. We decreased the word count for this next issue a little bit because we feel it could be just more palatable to students reading. We want to get the news out, I guess, to more students who maybe don't want to read such long articles. There will also be 16 pages in this next edition to issue to accommodate for more art and local stories. As of February 20th, the Long Meadow News stops printing. So we will be Long Meadow's only paper, like paper based on Long Meadow. And we're also, right now, I was talking to Mr. Cormier, our advisor today, about getting the paper online using the student activity funds that we currently have. And I emailed the IT department today too to start that conversation going. We're looking into a few options. And then finally, I want to talk about robotics just quickly. They say that the robot is almost done. They have to have it done by Friday, as far as I understand. And they're gearing up to compete in Hartford in March and April.
Yeah.
I just want to congratulate you guys on the Jet Jotter. It feels like it's really become very substantial and some really meaty articles, and so you're tackling some real tough issues. And I commented to a couple of the faculty groups that I was talking to about the budget that if anyone wants to understand Prop 2.5 and the tax ceiling issue, that they should read the column that you wrote. I thought it was one of the best things I've read about that issue in any newspaper around. So nice job on that.
Thank you.
Really well done. Yeah.
Anyway, Kevin?
Great job with the Jet Jotter. I know a bunch of you are involved in that, so keep up the good work. Poetry Out Loud, you did a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a really cool event. So yeah, well done. And the concert was great. The super chorus, Dear Evan Hansen song was wonderful. So I think, yeah, highlighting all those things really important. Also, we got to have a shout out to Chris Johns, the highest jump in school history, highest indoor jump, 6 feet 7 inches. If you go online and watch it, it's spectacular. My son at college sent me the link and said, you have to watch 2 hours in, and Chris clears 6'7", so that was really exciting. But yeah, a big shout out to Chris for doing that.
Yes.
Thomas, did you write your own poetry, or was it something you had to find?
Yeah, we had to find them online. Poetry Out Loud has like a bunch of poems on the website, so we kind of just had to choose one that spoke to us, memorize it, and recite it in a way that we felt best expresses the poem.
Nice.
Tommy?
Okay, so I'll be reporting about some upcoming events that are happening sometime in the next month. So there's a lot of music-oriented events. There's an instrumental concert tomorrow on February 12th at 7 p.m. in the evening at the LHS Auditorium. The symphony will be playing Star Wars. The orchestra is playing the City of Steel, and the wind ensemble will also be performing there. And the very next day, we have the Fine Arts Festival during the morning in school on Thursday, where the music department showcases the pieces they have learned. Lyrics will be performing an Earth, Wind, and Fire medley there. Another music-related event that is coming up is the Bring Your Friend to Chorus Night. So students that are part of the music department are heavily encouraged to bring a friend with them to promote the music program and expose them to a potential path they could take, and that will happen on Wednesday, February 26th. Fast forwarding to early March, LHS will be hosting the March Madness tournament, which is set up by the sports management class here. It's a tournament where students play against each other and sometimes faculty, and it's essentially a fundraiser. For example, some proceeds will go towards the George Giannopoulos Scholarship Fund. And I know it doesn't technically count as an event per se, but February break is coming up. So everybody will be able to take a nice little rest before preparing for the next few months where breaks are quite scarce. And that's all.
Right.
Okay, so today we wanted to present to you about the proposals that for renovations to the parking lot that we've been working on. So we've been working on 3 proposals for about the past 2 months, and these efforts were started by last year's council, and we hope to hopefully find a solution to these problems. So our main objectives when we first undertook this project was to reduce congestion in the parking lot, mainly between drop-off and pickup times, as well as reduce congestion on Grassy Gutter Road, which I'll explain in a second. And then also, a goal of ours was enhance pedestrian safety, and that's accomplished because one of our proposals actually eliminates the need for a crossing guard. So I'll just explain how the current parking lot works, and then hopefully that will provide more context for our actual proposals. So currently, I guess it's called Long Meadow Senior High School now, but so currently, this is the entrance that we use on the south side of the school, and both parents and students kind of converge on this entrance. Parents take the right side and students take the left side into the parking lot, whereas parents come around this horseshoe on the right and then drop their kids off right here, and then exit out the exit on the north side. So we came up with 3 proposals for renovations on how to reduce congestion on Grassy Gutter Road, which Maxim will talk about for our first one.
Okay, sure. So, with this proposal, we call it the 4th road proposal. It was an idea that actually Mr. Duckery pitched to us, I guess, showed us this idea. The idea encompasses adding a 4th road out of the 3 that we already have, adding another one on Grassy Gutter that will be used exclusively for students coming in. The idea is this will accomplish one of the objectives of reducing congestion, because now parents coming in and dropping off their kids won't have half the cars of students just driving themselves that are trying to participate here. And students also don't have to deal with the congestion due to parents, so it's spreading it out. But if we, there's the next slide has the pros and cons. So the pros is it doesn't face cars. You're going to park in the same line, in the same place. The car line, in theory, should move quicker as a result, and it's permanent. It has no new ongoing costs like new crossing guards or such. The cons is probably that it's permanent. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But also the high costs associated with creating a new paved road. And that also comes with the time of creating a new paved road and just all the issues associated with creating a new paved road. There's also a moat right there for runoff for water that I bet will be affected in some way. And then you have just really shifting how traffic works, that there's going to be more cars probably coming in from Bliss. So that would have to be a lot of time invested in traffic engineering. And I just want to highlight that we are not traffic engineers, and that's what I really hope that we spoke with the traffic engineer before we did any of this, but I guess our goal right now is to get your blessing to go and speak to traffic engineers, find out like if these ideas are crazy, if they're doable, and we hope that the costs, at least at first we hope that the costs don't scare away from maybe not considering some of these. We'd love to go in with talking to traffic engineers and get all those opinions without thinking about costs, thinking about costs, we'll come back with costs, but thinking about what's most effective and everything, and have many options, but just not automatically restrict that on ideas due to cost. There's, I think, other ways to sponsor through grants, as far as I understand. It doesn't necessarily have to be like
school money and such, so. Alright, next. Okay, so our second proposal, which we're calling the U-turn proposal, this was an idea that came from Glenn, who was kind of the person who spearheaded this whole project last year. So, in this proposal, so parents will be coming in from the Williams Street side of Grassy Gutter, and will enter where they're normally entering and dropping off their kids as normal. So all of that is the same. Where this is different from the current situation is that we're actually in this planning to cut some of the granite curving along the horseshoe and have parents make a U-turn and then exit the same way they came. And then over here on the left side, students will enter from the Bliss side of Grassy Gutter, exit where parents are currently exiting, and then enter the parking lot here, and then exit at the end of the day. So primarily where the congestion is happening, which is the reason why we're doing all of these proposals, is right here on Grassy Gutter, obviously in addition to the parking lot, but especially right here on Grassy Gutter, on both sides in the mornings when the lines are full with both cars of parents and students. So what students are sometimes doing is going into the lane, the left lane, where oncoming traffic is coming, and trying to bypass the parents and go around them. So, I mean, obviously that's a major problem, or they're waiting substantial amounts of time just to be able to get into the parking lot. So that's kind of where these proposals are coming from. So,
Armin, on that one, behaviorally, you think you're going to be able to get people to not come in from Bliss as a parent or not come in from Williams as a student?
I mean, it will be a difficult adjustment period, but hopefully as they become more accustomed to it.
Well, I think it's the parents you'd have to worry about, because there's no benefit for the students. Why would they take the side with the longer line, slower line?
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, today it happens, right?
them.
I mean, everybody just jumbles in from one side or the other. I just think you're going to have to, from a change management perspective, you're just going to have to think about those kind of issues on how do we change behaviors, because they're not happening today. Like, the biggest problem with the car line today, right, is parents don't pull all the way up to the sign that says, pull up to here,
problem, yeah.
right? And everybody just conveniently stops right out in front and drops their kid off, not thinking about the 30 other cars behind them.
Mhm.
But, and these are great ideas, I don't want to stop you, keep going. I just want to say that there's other, I think, behavioral things that we have to work on as well while we're working on these that I think we can help with.
Also, one thing I wanted to emphasize with this proposal, if you could just go back a slide. So, as I said before, with both the parents and students kind of jumbling into the entrance, the goal of this proposal is kind of separating those two lanes. So have students on one side, so that left side is going to be a constant flow of students just entering the parking lot in the mornings. And with the parents, yeah, it's the same concern, I mean, not pulling up. But at least we're taking the students out of that so that there aren't students and parents in the same line on Grassy Gutter. So with the pros and cons of this plan, so Glenn already brought it to the attention of Sergeant Mazzaferro, who has reviewed the plan. This is cheaper than making a new road, which was the prior plan, and it also removes the need for a crossing guard because of that U-turn, so parents won't have to pull up over the crosswalk. And that is obviously an aspect of pedestrian safety. So some cons, cutting curbing does still have a significant expense, even though it's not as much as making a new road. The U-turn will be hard for parents to make as they become more accustomed to it. And yeah, as I said, a difficult adjustment period. So this was also another idea we had. It is like the plan I just talked about, but it doesn't include the U-turn. So just like the last plan, parents are entering through this right side. They are dropping their kids off on the horseshoe and then pulling up and then out the way they normally come. Or I'm sorry, they're coming out past the administrative wing and out here onto Bliss Road. So that eliminates the need for a U-turn here. And students are coming in from this left side, entering here. There will be a barricade here, so students won't enter the line that the parents are coming through. They'll enter the parking lot, and then at the end of the day, they'll exit on this side and this will be a parent and bus exit. So parents and buses will come through this entrance, drop their kids off, and then exit out this way.
So, question on that one.
Yeah.
Instead of making that purple the entrance exit, right? You still have an egress on the top to the yellow. Why not just make it one way and then make everybody exit yellow?
What do you mean?
Well, in the morning.
You know it says parent and bus exit? Like at the end of the day, that should be parent, bus, and student exit.
Yeah, it is. At the end of the day, they're both going to be
No.
exits,
No,
aren't
it's
they?
not. No,
They
he's
would
using-
have to
Well,
go
at
out.
They're talking about
morning.
reversing the direction of traffic in the
It's a
afternoon.
dual.
I don't see where that,
You're talking about the kids.
right.
Yeah, see the double arrows? So they'd still be able to go out that way.
Right,
Yeah,
it's
so
in the afternoon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. At the end of the day, it
But
would
who
be a
decides, like,
two-way road.
like somebody has a doctor's appointment and they come back and like in the afternoon, what is like, this is just one road. If you just make one exit,
Well, there's no traffic at that point, they just go in the parent one. There's no rush, you can go in the regular one.
Would the barricade be removed at the midday?
It could be, yeah, that's one of
Okay.
the aspects that we discussed for this proposal. Either keeping the barricade and having students exit where they entered in the mornings, or remove the barricade and have them exit where that yellow arrow is.
yeah, I
Well, the barricade can be moved at 8:15. When are you done with the majority of the people coming in? Like 8:15?
I'm just
Doesn't
thinking
matter
from
anymore. There's no
behavioral.
traffic.
Yeah, I get it. I just think from a behavioral conditioning perspective, as long as you have everything going in one direction continuously, that'll just get ingrained in people's head.
Yeah.
That's just the traffic, as opposed to remembering, oh, the barricades, now I can go this way, or,
Yeah, put the barricade closer to the turn so Armin doesn't get stuck. You'll see it right before he has to go like that.
Yeah, and now the yellow exit only goes
Right.
right.
yeah.
So that's,
Supposed to only go right.
yes. I'm sorry. It's cut as if. You're
Which
allowed
it
to
is
go-
signed as if, but, you know.
It is signed as
Yeah.
if, however, yes, but you're only supposed to go right, so.
Which would be good for the Blueberry Hill traffic. You wouldn't join into that as opposed to
Yes.
going back around the loop.
That is true.
Uh,
But we wouldn't, I don't think we'd bump up against
You go back
that,
around the
but
loop and you get back into the high school traffic?
It's
Is there a high school line on Williams coming around that side?
No.
I thankfully have no experience with it.
We don't worry about it on the east side of town. We just go to.
Jack drives, so I don't have to worry about it.
On Williams?
In the morning areas. Coming from the Dunkin' Donuts,
But that's minimal.
I'm just trying to think of where the problem was.
I almost got hit
From
this
around the
morning
tennis court.
because a student decided to go into the opposite lane at me, and two of them came and they came right up at me and then took the right on Grassy Gutter as I'm going out of town. It's always backed up.
You got the
Every morning I
SUV,
go-
split them.
I mean, I was just more concerned that somebody was coming at me on the Williams. But no, that's always, I go that way every single day. and I'm-
From the tennis court to the
No,
right-hand
there's
turn on
usually
Grassy
somewhere
Gutter?
between 5 and 10 cars on Williams going out of town. Like if I'm going towards Big Y,
Mhm.
I'm going down Williams.
No, I mean on the
Always
other
goes-
side, the side closer to the school. Is there traffic from the tennis court?
Not that far.
Not, okay.
No, not
Because
that.
that's where you would loop around and be in if you came, when you have to go right.
Yeah.
If
It's
you need to
more
go the
back
other
to
way.
the parking lot. There's a parking lot there for the. for
Right,
the football
I've done
field.
what you're
Right.
It's always like
proposing.
right
It's
there.
not an issue.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was trying to understand.
And
they
if the
think-
students are coming from the other side, it should be even less of an issue now.
Yeah, I mean, I think your
Right.
idea
Right.
to separate the parents
not
and the
leaving
students'
anymore.
entrance is exactly
Oh,
what
I
needs
see
to
what you're saying,
happen,
because they're
right? That
coming in from that
absolutely
side.
needs to
Sorry,
happen.
right.
And we can quibble about like which exit you're gonna take. I don't think, like, whatever.
No, it's-
We'll figure that out, but I think if we agree that we wanna separate how the parents go in and how the students go in, this could be a huge improvement to what's going on now, right? And again, I absolutely agree that we're gonna have to get people to change their behavior, and again, this is obviously the easiest one, because like you said, it doesn't cost money,
Agreed.
it's just you have to change behavior, that's hard to do, but it's definitely worthwhile trying to do something, because it's miserable trying to do this right now, and it's really, I mean, people just do, as Jamie just said, they just do things that are unsafe right now, and if we can get people to do things that are safer, and if that is parents, you've got to come down Williams, students, you've got to come down Bliss. Like, we just have to start getting people into the habit of doing that. If people actually do it, it's probably going to be so much better than it is now, that people are going to be happy that there's a change, because it's horrible.
Question from Mr. Dunkley. Have you ever tried this arrangement in the past? I know.
We have not. I can say from conversations that we've had over 7+ years about this, it's with an issue day one when we opened the building, and it continues to be an issue today, that anything that we do that impacts the traffic flow on the public ways, we have to involve the traffic committee. And because all of these proposals have a significant impact on the public ways, so we have to involve them in that. Smarter people than me certainly have looked at this in a variety of ways, although not quite the way the students have. This is kind of fresh thinking here, other than proposal number one. It's fresh thinking, but nobody's come up with a better mousetrap, so to speak.
How many, by springtime, when you have some sophomores getting their licenses, how many student drivers do you have each day? Do you know?
About 160 to 170.
160, 170 cars?
160 to 170 cars.
Yeah, cars.
I think it would be great to try something out for like a month and just see how it goes. Obviously, the first week's going to be brutal because people aren't going to have changed yet. But I hope that if we do try something, we don't just try it for a couple of days and be like, oh, this is a
These guys need some vests. They can
Absolutely.
stand out there and direct.
Yeah,
I have a question. I have one question.
Yeah.
How much of a problem is it, because we talked about the crossing guard, kids walking across where the parents are driving out, does that cause a backup, or is everyone really good at timing it, like someone's dropping off and that's when I walk in front of the car?
I would say it does cause a backup, because I would say every minute or so, maybe 2 minutes, the crossing guard stops traffic. So, I mean,
So the kids have to pile up and wait until they're allowed to cross, you don't just go. Oh, that's cool.
And that's why the traffic crossing guard is there.
It's nice that they recognize the crossing guard and follow the instruction.
The kids are great.
It's neat.
Kids are great.
Okay.
Drivers sometimes, I'm going to be honest with you, not so much.
Okay.
We need to have that crossing guard out there for the safety of our
Sure.
students.
And that doesn't change with this plan?
it doesn't change.
I mean, I think you guys are right. This doesn't cost anything. I think it could, be, I think at the minimum, I'm ready to say as a school committee, could we support number 3 to go to the traffic committee with our endorsement for at least an
A test.
experiment, a test, a pilot?
Can I just ask one more
Yeah.
question? Is there any reason why, I haven't been in the high school parking lot actually in it at that time. Are parents starting to deviate? Will they cut through that parking lot where we have all the students going?
Yeah.
Should you have
They'll
2
drive-
barricades
Yeah,
there?
they do.
Parking lot.
The parents do everything,
Every
Jim.
day.
Anything you can imagine, they do.
So,
Well, I would,
up top there, do we really want, I mean, do you really want that open where somebody comes up with a great idea? Instead of having to go out that exit, they cut right through and go out where the students are?
but
But
they'd
we're
be
saying
going
we're not
against
gonna make that.
160 cars coming in at you at that time.
And a barricade.
Yeah.
So probably not a great plan, because everyone's coming in the other
So-
way.
Yeah, but
That
everyone's
part
coming
of it.
in,
Those
no
kids
one's
that
going
just
out.
Drove at you yesterday?
Yeah, but we're
Yeah.
saying, we're making that one way.
That's, the down here's one way?
The purple's one
Yeah.
way, yes.
Yeah.
One way, it's in
One
only.
way in the morning.
Oh, in only.
In
In the
only.
morning.
Oh, I got you. I thought you were, okay.
And Armin, you said there's a barricade there. Parents
They're gonna
can't
put
go
a
out there.
barricade there.
No, but if they came
Armin's
across
gonna
the parking
have the
lot,
barricade.
they go
I will
out.
have the
Then you
Yeah.
could put a
There's cars
barricade,
in there.
you could put a barricade where the entrance, the parent entrance to the parking lot is.
Suzie.
Yeah,
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
look at it.
look at that. Is it on?
Got it?
Here,
Is this on?
it should be, right.
Oh, there we go.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, on the right-hand side.
Yep.
Right
Right
there.
Yeah,
here.
right
Add a
there.
Put the
barricade, no one
barricade
goes
there.
And you think you're good up top there because that's all gonna be one way.
across. And
I
it's all
got
gonna be
it.
coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And
Then you- So
not
that's a way to
everybody's
stop
taking your
behaviors of a barrier.
I also might
Suzie,
suggest, like,
If I can just
Sure,
comment on
yeah.
that.
oh yeah, go ahead, Paul.
One of the things that is being left out here is the
Teachers,
faculty.
Teachers, right.
Okay, and
Faculty.
you've got about, in the front lot there, probably 75 to 90 cars on a given day
Yeah.
coming in. And I can tell you that teachers would greatly prefer not to have their cars mixing with student cars wherever possible.
Okay.
And probably students would prefer the same thing.
So
So
that
you
would
still
be
need to leave
beneficial
that
to them,
open.
too.
So we just
They
put
would
them
come
in the parent lane and leave that open.
It would. It
Because,
would.
Paul, like that's,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
But you,
Because that's where the teachers park.
Correct.
Right, and that's where the
And-
students park.
Right, again, to the right-hand side, that is where the teachers park.
Right
In
here.
the back
Yeah.
row, and a little bit of the second to last row, we've also given to the students because there are just that many
Yeah.
student drivers.
Yeah.
You know, it makes no sense to preclude student drivers
Yeah.
when we have empty spaces.
Right.
But even if a parent made like a bonehead move to go in here, they're not gonna be able to get out through there. The only way they're gonna be able to
That's
get out
right.
is
Right.
here out the.
Right.
Correct, correct.
Well, you said there's about 160 or so student drivers by springtime. How many, and on average, how many parent drop-off cars have you ever?
In the morning,
Yeah.
I don't, once upon a time, we sat there and
Probably
counted them.
counted it, right.
But I want to say that the number of vehicles coming into Long Meadow High School, students, faculty members, and drop-off exceeds 500 in
Yeah.
the morning.
I guess that's where I'm going with this is you could create a great traffic flow on your campus. You still have the potential for backup onto Grassy Gutter, Bliss and Williams, you know, I mean, with that many cars arriving in a very short amount of time.
but you might not have the, you know, kids zooming out because they can get into the parking lot and, you know, and that's just because it's a frustrating experience. I
Right.
get that.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar, I mean, Blueberry, we have the same thing. People just drive down the middle of the road. They make a third
The
lane.
third lane, right?
Yeah, it's always
right.
fun
Yes.
to watch that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, the biggest behavioral challenge for the drop-off, and it's the reason we eliminated the double lane going through, is to get people to come and pull up, and pull, as somebody mentioned earlier, pull all the way up to the sign. It was literally designed so that 7 or 8 cars would pull up, stop, they'd let their children off, and then the next, you know, they would move forward and the next 7 or 8 would go. As soon as somebody stops short of that, it throws a monkey wrench into the works. When they do the 7 or 8 cars and that's flowing, it actually works rather well with the crossing guard too. The cars are stopped, the guard can bring the students across while the cars are unloading. So on paper, it sounds really good, but in terms of a practical application, it doesn't work well. And I can tell you anytime that there's any level of inclement weather at all, and students chime in here, okay? What might work pretty well on a really nice, sunny, comfortable day, works extremely poorly on a day where it might be a little drizzly or rainy or snowing. And I see Armin going, yep.
There are definitely
I tell the
slowdowns.
truth, right, Armin?
Yeah.
Right, so it's a behavioral thing.
And the other thing that I think Mr. Landers does maybe monthly is reminds all of us that if you get here before 7:30, 7:25,
Pretty much free and clear.
right, it's not a problem. So,
Yep. So, we have got some good proposals in front of us.
Did we go through everything?
Nope.
We did.
I still think at least we send a recommendation to the safety committee to take a look at option number 3, see if it's feasible without affecting the rest of the neighborhood, and then we can get back to, safety committee can get back to you guys and just let you know. Does that sound like a good thing? I mean,
I think it's great.
we're endorsing it, I mean, unanimously,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Cool, all right,
Good job coming up with that plan.
yeah.
It's really
Thank
impressive.
you all.
Yep. Nice work.
Just make sure Armin's got the little vest with the blockade there. It's like Les Mis, he's gonna be on top, burning thing. You guys have anything else?
That's it. Yeah.
All right, nice job. That was a lot of content, so thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Brian, we have correspondence?
That's really good.
Why not?
Count on you.
Sorry, I was answering Susie.
That's okay.
Should we let everyone get settled? I don't want to start without Mr. Mazza. Correspondence, a memo from Mr. Donald Jarvis, Director of Occupational Education at CTAC, dated January 31, 2020, regarding the Walter E. Quigley Jr. Student of the Month Award for January 2020. Long Meadow students honored this month were Rebecca Hunley, Landscaping Technology Horticulture 2, and Caleb Zive, Machine Technology 1.
And if, that's great news, but if anybody hasn't had a chance to see Mass Live today, there was a big story on Mr. Jarvis and CTEC and all the opportunities that were over there, and they put the menu for like the cafeteria over there. I was like, I might have to start going there for lunch. It's pretty impressive.
That's amazing.
It's
yeah.
Yeah, it's
like
delicious.
they had some great skills.
Our students of Glenbrook and Williams have field trips, interested students have field trips planned to go see Career Tech in the month ahead, and then Career Tech will be coming to the high school to do a little orientation session for our 9th graders. So trying to make sure that parents understand that that opportunity exists and make sure that they know all about it, so,
Awesome.
yeah.
We have minutes for approval. Is there a motion?
Move that the school committee approve the minutes of the February 4th, 2020 school committee meeting as presented.
That's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, call for a vote. All in favor? Great. Any visitor comments? None. School committee announcements or recognitions? Yes.
My 8th grader is one of those people who's going to look at CTEC, so I just want to put another
There you go.
shout out for CTEC. He got the invite.
Nice.
And also, the Williams has their variety show coming up. The school show is this Friday, and then the public show is on the 25th. By variety, they mean lots of singing. The variety show is coming up.
Anybody else? Yes, Bronwyn.
I know Dr. O'Shea will probably mention it as well, but today, the event at Blueberry Simple Machines was amazing. The students were, their projects were super impressive, and just a lot of collaboration going on the past couple of weeks, and everything came together really nicely today, and super impressive.
Awesome. Are there any further comments?
I have
Yes.
a question.
Yeah.
So, the variety show is on the 25th, Ryan,
That's the public one. The in-school one is this Friday, I believe.
and our school committee
That's
meeting
what's
is
on the
on
calendar.
the 25th. Is that still? This says, superintendent's report says,
School committee
Yes.
School
meeting the
committee meeting on the
25th?
25th.
Yes.
okay. We'll stream live the variety show.
Somebody will film it for us.
Okay.
If there is consensus around changing a date, I have no problem entertaining that. So,
Thank
even
you
if I take it offline, we can talk about that as well. I mean, we're all parents, we want to see the shows, right?
Yeah. Thanks, Ryan.
No problem. Administrative reports. Dr. O'Shea?
Sure. A few things that hopefully are of interest is a calendar of upcoming events. It feels like our calendars are getting crowded with a lot of really great school events. I'll hit a few of those. We met today, the Pioneer Valley Excellence in Teaching Award Selection Committee met today, and we identified 4 winners of that Grinspoon Excellence in Teaching Award, and those folks will be notified, surprised, with a prize patrol in their classrooms tomorrow. So that we have the names, but too early to reveal. But, we look forward to doing the prize patrol tomorrow.
As you say, you're going around with Kathy and crew?
Yes, yeah, we have a token of our appreciation, and we usually try to catch the teachers by surprise while they're teaching, so it's a lot of fun. Yeah. Calendar committee is meeting tomorrow. If the committee has any thoughts or feedback for the 21-22 school year calendar, let us know. Nothing will be decided tomorrow, I don't think. I think we'll just be sort of in initial discussion mode. LHS instrumental concert next, oh, I'm sorry about that. That's me. Thank you. LHS instrumental concert is next Thursday, winter break. We have 8th grade parents' night at LHS on February 27th, so 8th grade parents will have a chance to come to the high school, learn about what the high school entails, all the opportunities, and find out about course offerings. So our 8th graders are becoming more and more familiar with the Educational Opportunities book that exists here at the high school. I mentioned to the committee that I was fortunate to be appointed to a statewide Gifted and Talented Advisory Committee. I'm not sure yet how that will unfold or what will entail, but the state of Massachusetts is taking a look at gifted and talented programming and whether or not the state ought to get behind that in some formal way. So that will take place this spring. The idea is that the committee will bring a recommendation to the Commissioner of Education, I think, over the summer at some point. So I'll keep you posted. It looks like a diverse group of very talented folks from across the state that are on that advisory committee. District-wide concert, one of the highlights of the music education year, Wednesday, March 11th, and that is the K-12 concert at the high school. It's a packed house and a great representation of the full experience of music education here in Long Meadow. We have the final installment of the Special Programs Committee coming up. We are partnering with an organization called Minding Your Mind, and we have essentially 3 events planned with that Minding Your Mind organization. They will visit our middle schools and our high schools to talk to students about the signs and symptoms of anxiety, and how kind of hopefully equip students with some skills to deal with the stress in their lives. There'll be 2 parent events. We'll send out some information on this on March 12th. The event will be called The Secret Life of Tweens. This has been well received in other districts that have hosted Minding Your Mind, and it's some great insights into the lives of teens and tweens. So that's March 12th at 7 p.m. And then we also have a daytime event. Sometimes nighttime events are hard for all parents to get to, so we have a corresponding daytime event that I'll get the date out on as well. School report cards, you may have seen that each of our administrators sent an email to their parent community about school report cards. Just as students get reports, schools and school districts receive report cards in Massachusetts. So those report cards are posted to our websites. Remain active in the statewide Global Studies 21st Century Skills Committee. It went last week. Sue and I have been kind of tag teaming that professional development opportunity. Always come away with something good. Most recently, some great insights on how to activate student voice, and kind of what we saw tonight is an example of that, how to engage and encourage students to be active participants in their education. So it was really, really helpful. The MTSS Planning Institute that I described in my report to you, I wanted to highlight that. We had a team of 6 administrators that attended over 2 days down at Springfield Sheraton. It was sponsored by the Department of Education. It was one of the best DESE-sponsored PD events that I've been to. It really gave us a way to think coherently and system-wide about how to provide high-quality supports for kids at every tier, Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. Middle school tours. We are trying to educate the town officials on the needs and deficiencies of our middle schools. So on Tuesday, the 18th at 8 o'clock, any town official that is interested can meet us at Glenbrook. Some school committee members are able to attend on that date as well. So we look forward to kind of just touring the 2 buildings with select board members, finance committee members, school committee members, anybody who has expressed an interest. And that's sort of to kind of prepare us to make some decisions about the statements of interest to the MSBA. Safety Committee, thank you, Mr. Mazza, for pulling us together again. Just recently met. There was some good conversation about radio communication systems and some future needs that might exist in that area. Chief Dearborn Fire Department has really done some great work in that area, and we have a fleet of radios that are aging and in some cases at the end of their useful life. So that's something that we'll need to talk about to the school committee and the town in the weeks and months ahead. And then also wanted to put another plug in for the partnership that we have entered into with the Center for Leadership in Educational Equity. I hope to introduce this to our parents in the weeks ahead. It's an organization that will essentially hold a mirror up to Long Meadow Public Schools for us to, and help us see how we respond to the various identities and backgrounds of all students and all families. So they will facilitate qualitative and quantitative data gathering for us. They'll do some focus groups, they'll do some surveys with us, and at the end of it, hopefully produce a sort of actionable plan for us to make sure that we're serving all families equitably, and that we give all kids a chance to reach the high outcomes that we have for them. So there's a lot happening. Happy to answer any and all questions that you might have. And as Bronwyn said, the Simple Machines event today at Blueberry was great. To hear these kids talking about levers and pulleys and wedges and ramps and all the various simple machines, and they could do it eloquently with excitement and engagement. It was just great to see. 18th year that they've run that Simple Machines Fair at Blueberry, so it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Any Gianna?
I'm just wondering, the school report cards, do you know if the schools themselves ever do like a how to read the school report card info session? Or?
We haven't. The state revised the report card recently. I think it was last year they came up with a new version of it. And it is so much more user-friendly than it used to be. So I know what you're talking about. It used to be horribly complicated and difficult to look at.
Yeah.
And the interface now is simple and easy to navigate. So I haven't heard from parents that it's been a problem recently. I did hear that going back a couple of years, but I think now it's in a good place. The department, I complained for many years that we would send the department a lot of information and data, and it never seemed to come back to us in digestible ways. And I'm finding now that the Department of Education has turned the corner on that, and they're starting to report back to communities in ways that are easy to understand and navigate and helpful to us. So it's really encouraging. Some of the, even the way they formatted these report cards it's really much more helpful. Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear that. I'm still thinking it's just a lot of numbers, a lot of, different categories, similar to what we were asking as a school committee last time about, the different categories and the clarifications.
Yeah.
So I almost wonder if we're not hearing anything because some people just aren't even
looking.
It doesn't. They don't necessarily know what to make of it, so they're just not even.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering how much value is really coming from those school report cards if we're not checking in to see if people understand what they're looking at.
Yeah. We have, I could ask the principals to go through it with their school councils and kind of get some feedback from parents at that level to see if it's a helpful tool to them and to see if parents are even accessing the report cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Thanks.
we'll do that.
It's all online too. You can see any school in the state and you can click through it and eliminate the parts you don't feel like reading.
No, I
Well, online, it's easy.
No, I hear Gianna, though. I mean,
as little as you want.
we're sending out information, and I know it's online, but I still think some people are looking at bar charts and saying, "What is this bar chart?"
Right.
I know what they're telling me, but I don't know what that means, in comparison, or what's the benchmark, and all
Yeah.
all the other kind of baseline data that it's being weighed against, and
Yeah.
I mean. It may not be intuitive for certain aspects of the community, and I think what you're saying is you'd like to make sure everybody feels comfortable, right?
Yeah. Perfect. Thanks, Anna.
I think the school council is a great vehicle for that, though, Marty. Good suggestion. Yes, Kevin.
Just following up on that, I mean, I'm looking at the report card for the high school right now. It is not difficult to read. You just need to spend a little time and go in and take a look at it. But the thing to get at this point, I mean, I think it might be helpful if each principal or if the central office had some headlines. That might be useful instead of just saying go look at our report card. Here's a couple of bullet points just to give you a real quick thing. If you want to dig deeper, great, but here are the headlines. Because that was going to be my question to you, Marty, which is, what are the headlines from the report cards? Are there things that were surprising, or things that are just like, hey, we're hitting it out of the park, we're continuing to hit it out of the park, and these report cards show that.
Fair enough, yeah, okay. I can put it on an admin meeting agenda tomorrow morning and talk about how to decipher, how to kind of translate it for parents and give them the,
Thanks for bringing it up. Any other questions for Marty? All right. Armin? Any more report?
Nothing to add other than if anyone wants a copy of the proposals, we have written descriptions of everything and I can send them out.
Diane has included them in our packet, right?
Oh. Okay. For the presentation. Okay.
So thanks.
Maybe you should make copies and leave them in the main office for
For parents.
visitors, people who just sat in their car
Knock on
line.
people's windows and hand them to them.
Yeah.
Crossing guard can hand them out.
What do you
While they're
think?
waiting in the car line.
Call the traffic committee.
So, Armin, do you mind if I just follow up with one question?
Yeah.
So, Armin, do you know, do you guys have a good sense of the students who drive, if they have a preference for any of the proposals that you guys presented?
Actually, I talked to a few during my ICE today, and they seemed pretty receptive to the idea of separating themselves from the parent line.
Okay.
So kind of just stratifying those two groups. So from the people I talked to, they seemed receptive of it, but we could conduct a larger survey to see the response from the students who actually drive.
Yeah, and I don't know if you need to do that yet. I mean, obviously, we need to get approval from
Yeah.
the safety committee, but I'm just curious if.
Just throw up some barricades and find out. No? I don't know where they came from.
Why are they on fire? All right. Do we have a collaborative update?
No, there's a meeting at the end of the month.
Okay. Right.
Same, I have to go to that one as well.
Okay. Energy and sustainability?
Meetings tomorrow.
Okay, great. Open space?
Meetings March 3rd.
Okay.
Do you know how the survey responses go?
I got an initial feedback, it was probably 3 weeks ago, and they were in the mid 200s. So I think the goal was to at least work our way towards 500. But I haven't got an update recently.
I didn't get it to my email, Jamie.
I didn't either.
So do I have to oh, sorry, I was saying I didn't get it to my personal email. So I don't know, do I have to opt into something?
So if you go on the town site, there is a link still on the town site. It's down a little bit further on the list, at least last time I looked at it. So if you went there, so not everybody was getting an email unless you happen to be on somebody's email list who is sending these out. So you might have to go look for it. on
You
that.
should have it in your school committee email, though, which. Yeah. They had sent it, okay.
Yeah, I may try and get clarification from the rec department on the distribution, because we could blast it out, but I'm not sure if that will oversaturate or skew the survey pool in some way, so.
Yeah.
We could do that.
Blast it out.
I'll ask, I can reach out to the committee as well and see if we want to do another blast before our March 3rd meeting.
Okay. Maybe they want to be more methodical about the audience that they send it to, I'm not sure.
Yeah. I think they just need an audience to, give them some feedback.
Okay.
So.
But it's the second item down on the left column. Like, it's not hard to.
It's on the town website?
Town website.
Yeah.
On the left column, the first thing is presidential primary, second thing is open space.
So there you go.
So it's there.
Yeah. We were expecting to get notched down quickly with information coming out, so we're holding up.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So if you go in there and do it, but I will reach out and see if we can send an email too.
Awesome. All right, discussion and vote on the FY21 school budget. We'll make our recommendation on the budget to be presented to the town for inclusion on the annual town meeting warrant. There is a motion.
I move that the school committee approve the FY 2021 proposed school department budget in the amount of $38,107,246.22, with a general fund allocation of $36,027,267.20, and submit this amount to the town manager for inclusion at the annual town meeting on Tuesday, May 12th, 2020.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
We be
Second.
We have time.
Okay, motion and a second. I will now open up for discussion. Is there any questions? Gianna?
Go ahead,
Go
Sue.
ahead. No, go ahead.
I think you might, oh, okay. I know we've had a lot of talk about the Blueberry Hill School, second grade classroom. I just wanted to just make sure I understand that if it's mentioned in the budget, but I know we've talked about other things could come up that could, leap ahead of that, I guess. I guess I'm just thinking, I just want to have clarification on how that would all work before.
So, from a budget perspective, nothing would leap ahead of it. So the budget that we have in front of us right now is the budget that was developed by the administration and staff working together to work within the framework of what the town gave us starting back in November to create a line item budget. So within that line item budget right now, there is a placeholder for a school teacher for that growing cohort at Blueberry. So from a budget perspective, the number that we are presenting is the number we're presenting, and we're presenting that to the joint session of the Finance Committee and the Select Board next week. The only thing that would change the line item budget would be, A, we get to the town and the assumptions around taxes and health insurance and a myriad of other things that are out of our control could occur within the state or local, or tax receipts could actually come in better, and and that's never happened. But to be unfair, it has happened where we have gotten slight positive surprises. But if something was to happen to that, then we would come back to us and say, here's the X number that we can't support from a town perspective as we develop the budget together, moving with Paul and Tom. So if that number came back to us, then it would go to Finance Subcommittee again to say, how is that number affected from what we originally requested? What's the delta on that? And then Tom and the administration, Finance Subcommittee would have to come back together with a plan on what then we would prioritize or deprioritize within the budget to meet whatever that number might be. So at this point, there's nothing that would change the stance we've taken to now as a school committee on addressing the specifics at Blueberry, but I would caution people that those same specifics are in play at center school at 2 grades and at the middle school for 1 grade, and we've addressed that within the budget too with a wait-and-see attitude as well. The other thing that can change, as we've already seen, is we've got kindergarten and registration going right now, and some of the schools are very healthy in their kindergarten registrations that we may not have been expecting either, that we're going to have to keep an eye on the budget too. So the fluidity to the budget isn't specific to the 2nd grade at Blueberry. It's what would happen to the overall budget, and then what would be the priorities of the school committee at that time to address either a surplus or a shortfall in that overall number. Does that make sense, or?
Yeah, and thank you for that. I just, we heard so much about the Blueberry situation. I just wanted to make sure I was clear and everybody else was.
Yes, Bronwyn.
So just to clarify, if we approve the budget tonight, it does include a teacher for that section of Blueberry?
As of right now, that is in the budget, yes.
Thanks.
Yep.
Can we just pull up what is that? I think it was up there accidentally a second ago, just so we can show everything I think that was added in. Was it? I think it was a second ago.
This chart here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Certainly.
And I think the way we talked about it is if there were other cohorts that required additional staffing, then we would have to determine whether or not we could absorb that in the budget that is voted by the school committee. So we're thoughtful, obviously, about the way we budget, but, you know, if the cohort grows more than anticipated, then we could conceivably come back to the school committee with some adjustments. If there was, you know, some attrition benefits that we see that we didn't initially project, that could be applied to deal with any cohort that grows between now and the time that school opens up.
Any other questions, concerns, comments?
I just have one other question. The document that we all have here, I was reading through this. What was the?
So this is, this came from a conversation that I had with a committee member, just to, so that I think the committee as a whole understood that there were some other things that were vetted and concerned or reviewed by the administration
Got it.
and or finance sub that perhaps was not reflected in the final budget. So these are just some of the other things that kind of were on the table for consideration.
Got it.
And you'll recall that some of these are things that we discussed at Finance Sub, but I think it's just important for, following my conversation with the committee member, it seemed to be important to let the whole committee know that there were other items that were considered that ultimately we didn't have need or the opportunity to fold into the budget.
Oh, okay. Nope, makes sense.
Anybody else? I got a quick statement I want to make, but, so I want to assure anybody who is watching and town officials, the public, that the school committee does not take the role of budget in our working lightly. This is probably one of our most solemn duties that we take on. It's not an easy task. As Marty was talking about, there's an entire list of additional investments which were vetted by both the administration, some things at times at finance subcommittee as well, that would be really awesome for our students, that would really impact student learning, such as we're talking about STEAM and school counselors and some other objects out there which, you know, quite frankly, could positively impact learning within the district, but not necessarily when you look at the entire picture of the town, which I think we have in this budget, to weigh the student impact and the positive impact on student learning with the financial realities that are facing us as a town. I've had more than one person, public officials, ask me, what are you cutting? Straight up asking me, where are you cutting this year? Like there was a number in my head to make a cut. And I think that the most important thing that we can acknowledge here is that the administration worked very hard to come up with a budget that I think met the needs of student achievement, while at the same time balancing those needs with the financial constraints that the town is facing. And I think that's really important to know. I think it's really important to know that the proposal that we're looking for in an increase this year is below the contractual obligations of the district, of the $901,000. The increase is less than that. That the budget as it is stands right now also includes some unexpected IT costs that don't necessarily impact student learning, but are equally important to both the school and the town side of the budget. Things such as cybersecurity, Munis update, software that has to be replaced. Not necessarily impacting student learning, but definitely still within the purview of the IT department of Nick George, who does a great job, and has also been filing for grants and working with our insurance company to see what we can do to secure our networks at the same time as being very fiscally prudent about that. So this is the best budget that balances the needs of the district with those financial realities. It's below the forecast we had in November, what we're looking that the schools would need by about $200,000. And I think the last thing is that this is a long process. It starts a long time ago with estimates of what we're going to get for revenues and what we're going to pay for contractual obligations, all the needs that might come, the DESE regulations that we can't anticipate, the Department of Education from a federal standpoint that we can't know in advance. Chapter 70, how that may not increase as much as we might have seen in some past years. But I guess my overall takeaway, this was a great job by the administration, by the finance subcommittee, and I've seen some excellent questions over the last couple months from this committee on this budget. I thank everybody for their hard work on it, and I just want everybody in the public realm to know that everybody put in a lot of time, effort, and consideration into this budget, and we think that it is the best budget for the achievement of the school and the district. So, thanks. Yes?
I'm sorry. I
No
should have
problem.
gone before you.
No problem.
No, I agree with everything you said. I think that was, going into this budget season, certainly, more than in previous years and in understanding in my previous experience that, every town is different, every context is different based on, the challenges and the opportunities. So I think I think the administrative team has really, maximize the opportunities while keeping the constraints at the forefront as well. And so I appreciate all of that. I do obviously support our class sizes being optimal in every scenario. And so I'm always going to be a proponent of making sure that we have appropriate staffing and student ratios, and Blueberry Hill, number one, and any that come after that, certainly, given the context. So I just wanted to make sure and put a plug in for that. But I think, with the vision of the graduate, with where we're headed as a district, broadening the opportunities for, students to experience real-world learning, and with the internships, all of that work, I think, really points to making progress despite some of the constraints we're facing. So I want to thank the administrative team. I thank Dr. O'Shea for fielding a lot of questions from us, and certainly all of the information that you've provided us as we've needed it. So.
Anybody else? Seeing none, call for a vote. All in favor? There we go.
Thank you.
Nicely done. New business. We have a overnight field trip request from Long Meadow High School for students to participate in the All-State Music Festival. Dr. O'Shea?
Yeah, an annual trip, this one led by Kayla Werland to the Seaport Hotel and World Trade Center in Boston, around 31 students that would attend March 5th to March 7th. And so this one is an overnight trip. It would require the approval of the committee.
Is this an overnight trip or no?
This one is overnight
5th through 7th
in
March?
one of the,
Because it says return time with parents following performance.
the,
Yes. Parents go and attend.
Yeah, it says-
I know it says, I'm just trying to figure out, like,
what the
because it says return says with parents following performance, so.
Don't they like practice, and then the performance is on Sunday, and then they go home with their parents?
Okay. Making sure. Because I think my kid is here, and I don't know if I have to keep driving back and forth the bus.
Don't get your own bus, you just have to go grab it.
Okay, there we go. All right, is there a motion?
I move on the recommendation of the superintendent that the school committee approve the overnight field trip request for students from Long Meadow High School to travel to Boston, Mass. on March 5th through 7th, 2020.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second, any further discussion? Seeing none, call for a vote, all in favor? There we go. Okay. There is a consent agenda, is there a motion?
I move that the school committee approve the consent agenda for February 11th, 2020 as presented.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
All call for a vote, all in favor? Okay. There's no executive session, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? Say none, call for a vote, all in favor? Good evening, thank you for joining us, and we'll be at the select board next week.